Right. Thank you very much. Welcome to this full council meeting, 25th of March. Before I ask Councillor Hanford to read the council blessings, I just want to make a brief statement. Given what happened on the 25th of February, I'm going to be very, very strict in terms of not having the democratic space here and the sanctity of its sacredness as a democratic space to be breached by any sort of irreverent, offensive comments or behavior. I will have no hesitation on giving you the marching orders. I just want to make that clear. Councillor Hanford, would you please?
Ia mātou e whiriwhiri ana i ngā take kei mua i o mātou aro. E pono ana mātou ka kaha tonu ki te whakapau mahara hua pai mo ngā hāpori e mahi nei mātou. Me kaha hoki mātou katoa kia whaihua kia tōtika tā mātou mahi a mā te mai te tiro whakamua me te hihiri ka taia te arahi i roto i tuko tahitanga me te aroha.
Kia ora. Item number 3, apologies. Any apologies? No. Item number 4, declarations of interest relating to items of the agenda. I have not been notified of any. Item number 5, public speaking time for items relating to the agenda. Again, I repeat the request that I made when I opened the meeting. And also, public speaking time if the first speaker has already covered the points that you have already made, unless you have something new to add, please don't waste your own time and the elected members' time and the staff time. So with that, the first speaker that we have got is Trevor Daniels speaking on the long-term plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Morning, councillors. I'm talking about the long-term plan. Now, you have an example of what the rate effects is going to be on median housing, and the one in Otaki, which is a low decile area. The fact is that the rates will cost them $6.58 a week, and the CPI adjustment that they're going to get for the year to cover rates, food, everything else is $1.44. It's 1.44%, which is $1 less than what the rates charge is going to be. Yesterday I was speaking to a person from Otaki, and he said that he had to go to the hospital, but he couldn't afford the petrol to go there. Fortunately, someone advised him about the service that they have in Otaki. And on clause 21, there's a couple of things that puzzle me. Sorry, I've got to find it. It says that the annual rates and clauses will be kept. No, yes, well, the annual rates increases are to be kept between 3 and 9% per year, with an average of 8.23% after growth. Does that mean the 8.93 goes on top of the growth? Shouldn't it be including growth? I'm also disappointed to see that you have identify a number of items and you only put the first year rate increase in. Why not put the full rate increase? Oh, and going back to clause 21 again, it talks about an average, it gives the first year rate and then talks about the average rate over the 3-year period. Why doesn't it identify the rate increase in each year? Is it because it's too shocking? I think the information that you've given us about the airport isn't enough for people to make a decision. I mean, do they realise that it could mean having to borrow money to buy the airport. You don't explain enough about what your options are there. And our last thing is, are we going to, I've got some OIAs in, will I get a quick response to the answers, or are they going to take the 20 days? That's all. Thank you very much.
Right. Have councillors have specific questions to ask Mr. Trevor?
Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning.
Thank you for the feedback and the questions. Could I just clarify, for the avoidance of doubt, that you're speaking in your capacity on behalf of Grey Power?
Yes.
Thank you. And that the individual, when you're speaking to an Otaki, had you picked up in the consultation document that also one of the other actions we took was to increase the rates assistance package by $50,000, which is the first time that I recall that being done in 10 or so years, to provide support for people like that. Did you make that known to the individual so that he might be able to seek assistance?
No, I didn't, but we've been publicising that lately in a local rag, and we'll do so in the Otaki News.
Thank you. And the last one is, in terms of the relationship between what the government gives as pensions and obviously what, as a council, we charge in terms of rates or even rentals on our older person's housing unit, has Grey Power as a organisation approached central government, who is responsible for obviously the level of income received annually, and actually expressed concerns around the impost and the cost that they're putting on local government and the lack of increase in pensioner rates?
Yeah, regularly.
Okay.
3 times a year.
Very good. Thank you very much, Trevor.
Councillor Elliott?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank Trevor.
Trevor, just hang on a moment.
Thanks. Sorry, James did ask one of the questions for me, but James, Trevor, I just wanted to know if the person you spoke to in Otaki was aware in any way that there is a really good shuttle service running from Otaki daily.
Yeah, you found that out. Somebody, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
And that's another interesting thing, of course, is that the council here has supported the free ambulance, but doesn't support St John, which covers Otaki.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that, yes, but thank you very much, Trevor.
Right, our next speaker is Margaret Stevenson Wright on behalf of Warwick on the beach.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, as Chair. I'm reading this on behalf of Warwick Wyatt, and it was handed to me from Kathy Spears, handed to me as a member of the Waikanai Community Board, being this is in our area. Upon reading the bylaws, while it's positive that an inclusion zone re longline fishing will extend south from Pekapeka Road, it reads only to Marram Way, which, to be frank, in terms of safety, is somewhat contrary to the reasons for restricting longline fishing in the first place. The majority of regular summer beach users on Pekapeka Beach comes from the public beach access point at Marram Way, utilising the beach to at least 100 metres south or north of the Marram Way Beach notice sign. Any exclusion zone to enhance beach user safety from longline fishing activities must therefore extend southwards from Marram Way public access point for at least, say, 250 metres. Such an exclusion extension will thus cover the area of adjacent beach residential zoned land south of Pekapeka Road. Such a zone may hopefully also avoid public confrontation. The public beach access notice board at Marram Way requires lifting or perhaps renewal to ensure it is clearly visible from the beach, and should identify ideally the 250 metre exclusion zone. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the public meeting, but this request is supported by the Marram Way community. Can you please assist to ensure that this community request is submitted to Council? And if I could add a comment as well here, that when researching for our submission on the beach bylaw, that the conversations I had with longliners themselves was that tides and weather irrelevant, no matter how you launched your long line, how you got your torpedo out there, there would be at least it could be 400 metres drift, either north or south of where the line was cast. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for coming and speaking to us today on behalf of a local resident. Are you aware whether this person or these people who live in Murrumbidgee made a submission during the submission process for the beach bylaw review?
I'm not entirely sure of that, Councillor, but what I do know is that when we had, when Jocelyn and I fronted a drop-in session around the beach bylaw prior to our own submission, that this person, his wife and several other people, residents, came along and spoke to that. I think the same people, if I'm right, Kathy, also spoke to your community board quite at Otahanger. Yeah,
Thank you.
Councillor Coates.
It's probably more of a question for staff, but there was a bit in there, Margaret, and I just wondered whether a copy of what you read out could be printed off and circulated to elected members.
Certainly, James. I've actually emailed it to Democracy Services, Dem Services, so they have that capacity to give it to you. I can email it.
Councillor Bravano.
So this is actually just to help the answer of Janet's question. So yes, he attended 2 of the meetings, and I think he also put a submission in. So he's fully aware of the conversations.
Okay. Now, the next speaker is Kathy Spires on behalf of Ian Redwood.
Morena, thank you. Mr. Redwood couldn't be here today due to a Wellington Hospital appointment. I was extremely disappointed to see the draft agenda for Council's meeting on the 25th of March that Council staff recommend the closure of the North Manly Street access. This is despite the result of the consultation where 70% of the submissions received did not support closure. Also, I attended the public meetings where this matter was discussed and came away with the feeling that the councillors present supported retaining this access for boat launching. We have lived adjacent to this site for over 42 years and have enjoyed using the access for boat launching as well as access for our children and grandchildren with their canoes and kayaks. Now there are approximately 15 boat owners as well as the beach walkers, swimmers and dog owners using the access. Very rarely we have had problems with inconsiderate drivers on the beach, especially in the last few years. In the 42 years we have lived here, we estimate we have only seen 10 beach patrols. We would like to see Council carry out more patrols in the area, especially during the summer months. They could issue non-complying drivers with a warning and possible referral to the police for repeat offenders. Alternatives to full closure could be a gate or barrier arm with combination lock, swipe card for launching access, or closure overnight, similar to Otahanger Domain. Council's recommended closure is based on annual costs of maintaining the access. This service has recently upgraded for the first time in about 2 years, and I don't think costs are a strong reason for closing the access. If Council are concerned about vehicle access encroaching onto the scientific reserve, a few boulders placed above the high tide mark at the stormwater outlet 200 metres north would prevent access in all but very low tides. My alternative launching is taking the boat and tractor down to Manly Street to the boating club with its crowded launching area. In my case, this is not desirable and I would be forced to sell them. Having spoken to other boat owners in the area, they would all like to see the access retained and we ask for Council's favourable decision. So what they're asking for is for please to be included in item 7 on the proposed bylaw to include the Manly Street North as a boat launch and retrieve site. Thank you.
Councillor Coates.
Mr. Chair, we, in asking this, obviously stepping outside of our normal procedure, but I wondered whether we could ask the Chief Executive to clarify that particular point, given there may be other members in the public gallery that may raise the same issue, and we have a reasonable amount on our agenda today, so it might be helpful to indicate before we move through other public speakers.
Councillor Coates, I think I'll have to tell my wife that you don't read my mind.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In response to you, Councillor Coates, and for those who are submitting on this issue, yes, staff prepared the report to contain staff advice, fully aware that elected members are of a view that they would like a different resolution to that. So at sessions that we've held where we've gone through the various topics, we're certainly of the understanding that elected members would like to I think, effectively leave that open with some form of barrier subject to LTP funding. Staff felt that it was appropriate that they continue to put forward their advice as to what they consider would be the best outcome, fully aware that elected members obviously have the right today to make a different decision, and I believe have a recommendation prepared for that eventuality.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Randall.
Mr Mayor, thank you. I have two questions, but the first to the Chief Executive. He made a statement, so I should be able to ask him a question on the statement he made, Mr Mayor. You said staff advice, the paper's based on staff advice. What was the point of having a consultation where 70% of the people wanted a certain site to remain open if the whole paper is just based on staff advice? Surely it should reflect the views of the community when you had a public consultation on it.
Can I just, I don't think the Chief Executive need to answer that question. Can I just lead the councillor to the point where when we had the water meters issue some years back, there was thousands of people who didn't want water meters. Today we are an example for the Auditor General and also the rest of the Wellington District of the wisdom of that decision. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. My second question is to Kathy. Kathy, the paper talks about, and you mentioned it, the paper talks about the maintenance costs are high, right?
Yes.
The paper says the maintenance costs are high, but are you aware that the Deputy Chief Executive wrote a letter in 2018 to say the cost for maintaining that access way was only, over a 3-year period, was only $3,000.
No, I wasn't aware of that, but I had heard of a higher figure. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Cool.
Right, no other questions. Next speaker. Manu Parata. And again, can I say, if your item is going to be on the same matter, unless you've got something new to add to the question, and also take into account what the Chief Executive has already signaled.
Peter, ko tēnei te mihi kia koutou katoa, i ngā mana whakahari a tēnei tātou huhuinga. Ko tā mai au ki te whakamārama mai ngā wā o tāpito, ngā history, and I'm going to take you all the way back to Kapiti and bring you down, but I want you to imagine that there was bush here then. Well, this wasn't cut down. I want you to imagine that the canopy went from the foothills here all the way down to the foreshore. So the first karakia I'm going to do is the karakia of creation. The second one is the karakia of creation in the Book of Genesis. It's the very first karakia. The third one is goodwill to mankind and peace on earth. And the fourth one is a tau para para, which speaks about the sharing of conversation. Ko te pū, ko te pū, ko te more, ko te ako. Ko te matapuna. Ko io ai nuku, ko io ai rangi. Ko te io te kaihanga matua te ao. Ngā me katoa. Te hangahanga te rangi o te whenua e mūno atu. Ka wehea mai te wai I te whenua. That's when Tangaroa left Papatūānuku. Kia pai hua te rā, te marama, me ngā whetū. Then appeared the sun, the moon, and the stars. Ngā eka, the first whales, ngā manu, the birds, ngā mea oto, the bush. Tā te tangata te ahua te atua. Then came mankind who was created in the likeness of God. E honore e kore ki te atua I maungarongo ko te whenua I whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Ko te ira wahine, ko te ira tāne. I heke mai te aho kawairanga tira. Kia tātou katoa e. Kuku ana te, koi ana te tui, kete ana te kākā, kio ana te kiwi, kuku ana te kereru, ti hei Māori ora. My sharing with you today is pictorial, and I want you to imagine that you came from Kāwhia with Ngāti Toa, and on the way, this here is a nice tree of Aotea Harbour, back up by Kapiti itself, and then back down to the one with Taranaki here. And then we came here in 1814. We came down here with Ngāpuri, and that wasn't a very good trip. So it was the first anyone down here ever seen the gun. So we went back, and Trevor, I was told by one of the old chiefs, you should come here and live here, because that's all the sailing ships down here. So, Ngāti Toa in 1819 left Kapiti and came down here. Now the way they came was around the shoreline by canoe and on land by a number of war parties with our wahine, our women, with a baby strapped to their backs. And our first pass site was at Malaka, up here in Ngāti Wehi, and that was called Pātara Okaraha. So, from that point there, we came down and just launched some people on the island.
Mr. Manavrata, can you tell me that you are going to be speaking on the beach bylaw at some stage?
What I'm trying to do, sir, is share the history, because what I'm getting at is that the causeway on the beachfront that we came down on is still there today. And the bylaws are a concern to the Ngāti Toa people, Chateawa, and the whānau Hapuriwi here, who still reside here. Because those tracks go from Waimea all the way to Karieku. And they're still open, they always have been. You've been invited to come to our meeting to share. No one's come yet. So, the Komatsu Trust, we have 3 different trusts on the marae. We have the Marae trustees over here, the Komatsu Trust, and then the trust Chachawa, who are in Parata Street in Waikanae. But the Komatsu are the people who hold the old knowledge. The new trust that was formed recently was formed because we closed our runanga. And in 2008, the Komatsu Trust was established by Paura Ropata and a team of Komatsua who have passed away now. Kaituri, I'm their secretary, and I have a responsibility to come down and speak to you all. And I don't want to have my grandchildren asking me what did I do about it. What did you do about it, Koro? That's a hard question to answer. So I think what I'm getting at here is that is it your country or is it our country?
Mr. Manuparata, I understand where you're coming from, but I'd like to add the fact that we have a particular process in which we are legally bound to listen to the mandated EV authority, which is the Whakarongata Charitable Trust. We understand that that's an issue in terms of the take that you brought here is an issue for internal resolving, and any changes to the people that we legally interface with will depend on what the Waitangi Tribunal says, because we listen to the mandated EV authority as established by Tipuni Kokri. So the issues that you're raising here today is an issue that needs to be handled either one, internally amongst yourself, and two, through the Waitangi Tribunal and Tipuni Kokri.
Okay.
But if you have other issues directly related to the beach bylaw, I'm prepared to listen to that.
Okay, the other issue, well, it's all really holistically involved to me because I'm one of the few children back in the time who sat on the knee of my kui and sat at the dinner table by my karawa and told the history. I realise that the mechanisms may be different today, but traditionally and culturally, the art of oratory was always exercised on the marae and in Parliament. And it's only been in recent times that the Māori Party is trying to change things to get more foothold in there. But that's another part of the story. Those are my concerns anyway, that I don't want the Komatsu walked over or any of these other people in here who have concerns about the matter of the bylaws because we've always had access. And I don't see any Komatsu ripping up and down the beach on bikes or speeding. And there's just one more issue I want to speak to you about. This is my great-grandfather, Wee Parata, and he was responsible for establishing the Waikanae Hack Handicap Race Club, which was down Parata Street, along Kapakapuni Road, up Rimu Street, and onto Ngaio Road. And in the centre was our shearing shed. So, and this here, these here are the laws for betting. And you could bet and play two up and those kinds of things.
Kathy?
And this is the racetrack itself here.
Kathy's interested.
So, these are the plans which were submitted to council and approved for the building of the racecourse in 1904. And this here, of course, is the old original railway station in those times. It's all different now. And
Mr. Manu Ropata.
And these here are the
Mr. Manu Parata, can I just say, look, we need to progress this council business. What I can assure you is that you've said before that nobody has come to listen to you all. Can I give you an assurance that I hope you understand the processes that council needs to go through in terms of interfaces. So within that framework, I'm also willing to step out of the framework to come and see you all at some stage in the future, in the near future. I give you that assurance as the mayor, but within the confines of the fact that you understand the processes that we need to follow. I will come and do that. I've had previous relationship with Paura Ropata many years ago, the late Paura Ropata. Great respect for the man. So I will give you an assurance that I'll come and see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tui, ya. Tui ki manaka. Tui ki te rangi maari e. Tui ki te aroha tiki. Ki hei.
Thank you very much.
Te wera karanga o te rā, te wero, te tākina. Ko tau rau, ko taku rau, ka o ta iwi, e te iwi, e.
Pumau tūturu whakamaua ki a tīna.
Tīna.
Haumi e hui e.
Tai ki e.
Right. I'm going to take the next speaker.
Mr. Mayor,
No, I'm not taking any questions at the moment on this matter.
I wanted to ask him a question on the beach bylaw. Surely, he mentioned the beach bylaw.
They didn't actually exactly speak on the beach bylaw. They're talking in terms of the historical accounts, which I have said that I will see them in the very near future.
Well, I think I should be allowed to, Mr. Mayor.
Next speaker, Mr. Les Mullen, you got. Now, I think here's where, with beach bylaw in itself, you can ask questions.
Kia ora koutou, Les Mullen, kai te aki of the oa, and a Taiaho member for the Charitable Trust of Ki Whakarangatai. Your beach bylaw, it should be thrown out. We've had access there for many, many years. From my tipuna when I came home, they gave me a taonga, and I respected that taonga. And you people want to stop me from going to the river mouth to access my kai. Not only for Māori, for Pākehā as well. We have our Pākehā friends here as well. They had friendships with my tipuna, and it was born on that river mouth. They had access to it. They could go down there any time. But hey, we have these council meetings like this. You're all here, but none here. You need to come away from here and feel it. I walk the river. I am the river. Anna, you people need to get out there and look at your community. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Your Pākehā, my European friends, they feel the same way too. But hey, you people have got a long road ahead. I'm not going to give any threats of what's going to happen, but I am going to continue to drive on my beach because my tipuna allow me to.
You can give me all the fines, send me to jail. Ana. Kia ora.
Ko nā waka e nei iho ia mai rā o te nuku o te whenua iha wai ki pamama whakawhiti mai rā nui a ki wa ki au te roa hiki ruku hiki rangi. Tai nui te arawa toku mari taki timu o te amata tua kura hoka horu tana toki mata pauru e. Shut up.
Just
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my question is in relationship to the beach bylaw. Under the old beach bylaw, the iwi had unfettered customary rights. That was stated clearly in the old bylaw.
Yes, and it's been taken away from us.
Yeah, so
I'm not allowed down there.
I just wanted to know what your views are on the new definition under the new beach
Oh,
bylaw.
the new definitions, you people need to get it right and come and sit in our whare and get it right. You can't do that. You have to change this model. This model's not working. Anna?
No, I can only ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you very much. Manu and Carl, I've got it on my calendar to come to the marae, to come to your hui, Komatua, on the 7th.
Kia ora, Jackie.
Next
Yeah,
week
thank you.
at 1:30. Could you email us and just let us know, please, which entrance to use and which protocol you'd like us to use to come onto your whare?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Liz and I, we're actually on the Mountains to the Sea project together. Thank you for coming along today. And based on what you're saying, I just want to unpick a few things. So there's actually there's three things you raised. One is being able to drive on the beach. The other one was access to the river. And the other one was cultural harvesting. So it's my understanding that is still within the bylaw, saying that maybe the mechanism around doing that probably isn't quite as clear as it could be. The second one, in relation to the river, so it's actually Doc who's actually saying that no vehicles are allowed along the Waikanae River estuary. And so that there is actually something that is outside the council domain. And so the other issue is about you saying, so I'm just trying to clarify whether it's actually driving on the beach or actually having driving on the beach to have access to the river.
It's driving on the beach to have access to the river.
Okay.
You people don't even see me on the river. So sometimes I go down, currently we have the Tunihiki run. For those who know anything about it, I used to drive down the beach to the river mouth, set my hinakis. By the time you woke up, I'd been and gone. So the impact of one person driving on the beach is, very minimal. But when you've got a heap of whitebaiters down there, they come to me for guidance. If I see them doing something stupid, bro, it's a privilege to be on here. There's no need for that stuff. The word being, I'm quite prepared, if you fellas change your model, to police it. For the amount of mana and respect that I have had with our local community, I don't think you'd have any problems. Just a suggestion.
So if I can make a comment,
I would prefer you don't make comments and just ask the questions.
Okay.
Councillor Compton, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, just quickly. Thank you for coming and speaking with us today. So would your view be that what's proposed in front of councillors today in terms of the new beach bylaw would be inconsistent with the protections for customary rights offered under the Marine and Coastal Areas Act 2011?
Yeah, you got it. Change the model.
I hope that you'll stick around for the staff to respond to that. Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Carl Weber. Carl, unless you got something new to add.
Testing, sweet. Kia ora, Guru. Yeah, thank you. I understand we're limited for time, so I'll keep it pretty short. I'm Carl Weber. I'm from the 3 local iwi here, Ngāti Toa, Te Atiawa, Ngāti Reikawa. In particular, with this kaupapa with the beach bylaw, my people are from the Kai Tangata Hapu. Our pā is Kenekena pā. We're the mana whenua for the beach down here, Waikanae River along Paraparimi Beach. And I want to speak to the beach bylaw. So we came here, the Komatsu came here, represented Komatsu Marae trustees and ourselves. Thursday, 26th of November, we made a submission to Council about the beach bylaw process, and our concern was that we hadn't been consulted, and the invitation was to come and talk to us. That still hasn't happened. Of particular concern to us as iwi is the references to customary items within the beach bylaw, and I'm not going to go into nuts and bolts, but we need a conversation so that you can come and talk to that. We did offer to engage with our elected members and community board members, and it was my bad. I didn't realise about operational procedures, so the Mayor's office stopped that happening. But we've got an open invitation now for our elected members and community board members to come to our Komatua Hui, which is the first Wednesday of every month, and we're hoping to see some there at our next one on the 7th of next month at 1:30. Myself was recognised as a person of interest within the beach bylaw. Council staff were to speak to me and consult with me, and that staff member left and it hasn't carried on, so I haven't been consulted about that. My connection to the beach is I live at Mutungarara, between there and Paraparimi Beach. I'm well connected with that community, with the Kenekena community, North Beach community, with the Coast Guard Boat Club, the Paraparimi businesses, and many people in my community. Our role as mana whenua, and as Hokainga, we live in those areas, is to look after all of those within our community and represent their interests, much like council do. We have a slightly different angle to that. The Kenekena pā is our pā. The North Beach cutting through to the beach is our customary access. It's the only access we have from there, and I've made it clear at some of the public processes to talk about the beach bylaw that we don't support that being closed. And there's more discussion to have around that. We could manage the access, as been said here, and we could do better management of the beach. I support council to perhaps not vote to pass the beach bylaw, but to extend the period to come to some consultation with us and have some conversations on the ground at our marae and also at our beach. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about down there, and we're not trying to be a problem. We're trying to be a solution, and we'd like to be seen as part of the solution. And I just want to back up. We stand here together. That's why I come up and stand with all my people, because we stand together. You know, we're not individuals. We actually stand together. Our kaumātua, our marae trustees. Les is our kaitiaki for all our waterways. That's pretty much me. I'd just like to encourage you guys to come along and talk with us about this and just work out some of the nuts and bolts. E te atua whakatū whera mai kia mātou, te kawaha o te tika te pono te mātou ranga, ngā mā mātou e whakamuimiti e whakakurore tuinga wa tapu. Amen. Kia ora.
Councillor.
Tō tātou waka ko te rangi Māori e, te horunga puna roha, o ia nora I tainga mai ai, te arapanunga kei mamaora wai.
Councillor McCann.
Yep.
Carl.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, my bad.
Thank you very much for coming today. You mentioned now's not the time to talk about the nuts and bolts. Can I just confirm for the rest of councillors, have you raised any of those nuts and bolts in any of the consultation process that's been open for some time?
Yes.
So is there anything new you wish to raise, or is it that you don't like the result?
Have you written down what I've submitted?
It's not a two-way street. I'm just asking you a question.
If you've written down and taken notes of what I've said and it's gone into the process, we probably don't need to discuss it in detail. But if you haven't, then yes, we do. So I don't know if you've written them down or not through your public consultation process when you have pop-ups. So you have pop-ups to go and talk to people, hand out brochures and that, we make some kōrero about that. Does that get taken in? So I don't know, but it's not the point. The point is, Rob, is that in official capacity, council hasn't engaged with our Komatsu Marae trustees in mana whenua. That's what I'm saying, and there's a lot to talk to. There isn't time in this room now to talk to that.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Rob.
Councillor Holiday.
Thank you for coming in, Carl.
Kia ora, Martin.
Just, I think, building a little bit on what the Mayor alluded to, we have a process that we are mandated to with regards to the Aotearoa Charitable Trust. So I would have an expectation that your groups should have been involved in a process with regards to feeding in to the submission that came from them. Did that occur at all?
No, it didn't, Martin, and I'll just refer back to my brother Chris's kōrero to council at the Gateway meeting on the 25th. If you refer back to that, that pretty much says enough about what we feel needs to happen. Kia ora, Martin.
Holly Evans.
Kia ora koutou, aroha mai, sorry for being late. Kona Green tuku ingoa he video no Ngāti Toa, and I'm the Ngāti Toa iwi rep.
Kia ora, Natalia.
Sorry,
Kia
I
ora.
came in halfway through your kōrero, but as I was sitting there, I was trying to get the gist of what your kōrero was about. And so I believe there's some issues with access. Ko te mea tuatahi, ko te mea tuatahi, nobody came and consulted you. Ko te mea tuaroa, you feel that you should have access, cultural access to your whenua, to your awa. Is that right?
That's one point, yep.
Right. And so I think it's not too late to have a kōrero. I was having a little discussion of my own separately just now, and Te Rawiki, I think I heard Jackie say she was going to come and meet with you, and I'll try and come and meet with you as well, so that we can kind of come to some sort of resolution, because I'm just new at this game too, so although I'm sitting on this side, I still represent iwi interests. What I do know is that the law is so minced up in such a way that it doesn't really resonate with us as Māori. And so I also heard that DOC has, I wouldn't say control, but on the Crown's arm of things, they have control. So I think it's a matter of getting together and explaining to you how everything's run from council's side, to hear your kōrero and then try and come up with a solution Te Rawiki Pia, if that's okay with you.
I would appreciate that. Kia ora, Natalia.
Ngā mihi.
Nobody else. Can I ask you, Carl, this question? You've heard me explain the process in which council is locked in terms of where we get our mandated advice on EV issues from the mana whenua authorities who are mandated. Is this an issue that you have raised with them in the first instance before you've come to council?
I'll go back to what my brother spoke to at the 25th, Guru. Yeah, that's the bare minimum. You've locked yourself into the bare minimum consultation. And if you want to use the charitable trust as your post office suite, but there's a whole lot of other people involved with iwi. Hapu, Crown created iwi. Crown created iwi. Iwi is hapu. We are hapu. And hapu need to be consulted, especially mana whenua and those on the ground. This is an operational matter, I understand that. So for operational matters to be functional, my thing would be, logistically, you'd want to talk to all parties that might be able to contribute to that. And my feeling is that you haven't done that. Part of council process was I was named as an individual to speak to about this, and that didn't happen.
Carl,
so I just want to expand on that. It was like,
Carl,
we'd like to see the process carry on.
With due respect, the question that I asked you is, have you, with the claims that you have in terms of your thinking that you've got a legitimate right to approach the council, have you approached the charitable trust first before you've come to us?
I've spoken with our Komatsu and Marae trustees, and it's up to the charitable trust if they want to come and talk to us about that. That's it. I don't want to put my whakapapa here, Guru, but our whakapapa means is that, we are the rangatira here, and you guys need to speak with us.
That's not what I'm asking you, and so what I gather from what you've said is you have not. So, but that's your right.
They don't want to talk to us, Guru. So we're here to represent our people, which is all the people in our community, which is what you're supposed to be doing.
That I will come and see you all, bearing in mind the framework within which council is processed and how we interface with mandated review authorities. Within that, I will still openly come and see you.
Sure, Guru, and that's what I say. We'd like to be part of the solution. So, you know, maybe there's scope here to change your process. If it's not working, change it.
Thank you very much. No
Kia
other
ora.
questions.
Kia ora koutou.
Dennis Grant.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Grant. I live in Manly Street and I'm confused as hell about this matter now. In the Strategy and Operations Committee meeting agenda of September 2020, item 8.2 of the Appendix 1, it was mentioned, note that later in this document we seek feedback on whether to revert this access point to a pedestrian access only. There was no mention in that of costs of maintaining it. 61% of the people in this agenda for the Parapram and Waikanai boating clubs have voted no for access down there. But the council staff, I should not refer to the council staff, I'll refer all of council, have said that the majority are in opposition, but the recommendation is to progress the proposal to leave it open. Question 6, for the Manly Street Parapram Beach North proposal, 70% of 356 submitters, and that is a total of 249, because it's all written down for you, are against closing the Manly Street Parapram North beach access. But for this question, the majority is for it to remain open, but the recommendation is to close it. Where is the consistency of all of council? They also mention that the congestion at the Kapiti Boating Club will be managed if the access is closed. You can't manage the access the congestion down there now without us going down there. And why should I travel 3 kilometres to be 500 metres away from my house? Another comment in this agenda is the annual cost of maintaining the site is high.
Grant,
For the capacity, I am talking.
You got 1 minute to wind up.
Costs have never been mentioned in this beach bylaw before, even in the consultation periods. I've asked what the comparative costs for the accesses are, and the reply was, you can expect an answer within 20 days under the LGOIMA. So I can't even get the costs. Shouldn't all of council have the costs, if they're reporting on the costs, at their hand to say to you, oh look, it's only about $300, or it might be $30,000. Shouldn't we have some information before you go to a vote so you can make a decision that's based on actual fact?
you have consulted with other people in the last month or 3 weeks, even on a Saturday, staff, councillors and members of the public and other interested groups. Yet nobody's asked us residents at the Manly Street end at the Parapram Beach North. Nobody's been around and talked to us. It's only after the fact that you talk to us. I can't even get a decision. On the right hand, somebody says, oh no, it's going to be a total closure. You won't be able to get a wheelchair down there, or the lady on crutches down there, the lady with the pram with the baby in it down there. There's going to be no access. The left hand says, oh no, we're going to have pedestrian access, but how are you going to stop the motorbikes? Oh, we can't talk about operational things. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time.
On there, Councillor McCann.
Well, thank you very much for coming, Dennis. This is all. We have heard the. I think councillors have heard this, and my question is really simple, and I hope it gives you some comfort as to where it might lead. Are you aware that councillors do not have to follow the staff recommendations?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I would hope that would be the case. But why are we wasting our time?
There's a
Hush.
You will leave the room now. You've been warned. You do not raise your voice to the chair. I've already warned you all before. This is total disrespect.
You want to take my photos? Hang it up on the wall. I told my sister my photo would be hanging up on the wall. The council chambers by the end of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. No, that's fine. The next speaker is Jim Simmons.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow and councillors. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here as the chairman of the Waikanae Estuary Whitebaiters Network, and I'm here to labour a point that we would hope is part of this coastal access, and that is that arbitrarily last year the permit system for us to access down the beach in vehicles was removed. And I'm hoping that somewhere in this bylaw there's a place where you would put that you will reinstitute the permit system for the whitebait season only, for all us old people and that want to get our gear down there to whitebait. So I heartily endorse all the previous speakers. At times it feels like we're just not being listened to. No one takes into account decades of access arbitrarily removed. And I'm aware that DOC and Regional Council control part of it too, rest assured. If we can maintain our permit system to get so far down the beach, we will be then talking to them. They are, after all, paid for by us, ratepayers and taxpayers, and they need to listen to the people. Stop removing our fun, stop removing our enjoyment, stop taking things away from us that we've been doing for decades that cause no harm whatsoever to anyone or any other living thing. A couple of doctorals might nest there. We've never, to my knowledge, no one has ever done them any damage. They also have another 17,900 kilometres of coastline. How about thinking about people now and again too? And I am aware of the environment. In fact, a lot of us hunters and gatherers are totally aware of our environment in a very practical way. Listen to our kaitiaki. We're there doing it. We're watching it. We're seeing it. We look after it. So that's all. Can we have our permit system back from this council? We'll worry about DOC and Regional Council later. That was all. Thank you.
Hang on there, Jim. Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, thank you for coming along today. So I just want to
You're
ask
welcome.
a few questions about the permit system. So, first of all, you actually I think you answered the question, but just to clarify, so it's actually issued by KCDC rather than DOC, or is it a combination permit?
Back in the day, it was just a KCDC, and we used that to access the river mouth, and at that time, Greater Wellington and or DOC, by tacit agreement and historically, never stopped us going down there. But the permit was a KCDC permit.
Okay, thank you. And so what did that permit allow you to do, and did it limit where you could go at all?
There was nothing written on the earlier ones at all. The year prior to the arbitrarily cancellation of them did say to the markers of the reserve.
Okay.
The marine reserve.
Okay, thank you. And do you know why that permitting system was stopped?
Yes, I think it was a combination of what I call the three amigos, KCDC, DOC and Greater Wellington, getting together to prevent a traditional practice of decades standing. Yeah, they worked in tandem.
Thank you.
Councillor Compton.
Jim, thank you for coming to speak with us today. In
You're
terms
welcome,
of
thank
that
you.
previous permit system, was it limited to just residents who lived within Kapiti, or was it open to anyone to apply for it?
I don't know the answer to that. No, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that,
But
Councillor Compton.
I suppose assuming something like that could be established again in the future, and we could get DOC and GW on board, would that be a sort of restriction to it, so it is for locals to access it that the estuary network would support potentially, or? Self-interest
Tells me that would be great. Because, we do have a lot of outsiders, but then a lot of the outsiders have batches here. I think I'd like to include everyone. Anyone that applies for the permit gets it, because the river, in our case of whitebaiting, the amount of positions available on the river limit the number at any one time. So yeah, we might have to get out of bed at 4 a.m. to beat someone from Wellington, So yeah, I'd like to see it not just a local Kapiti ratepayers thing, but I wouldn't say no either, of course.
Thank you.
Some of our members are actually Wellington based, so I need to take their interests into account, obviously, as well.
Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you. Supplementary question. So just on the permitting system, so what sort of reasons were people provided with a permit? How long was the process? And could you say, right, I want to go and do something there today, and I want to apply for a permit? Or was it a much longer process? And how long was the permit actually issued for?
Permit was issued for the whitebait season, which is mid-August to the end of November.
So it was solely for the whitebaiting season?
It was just for the whitebaiting season. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what sort of reasons were people turned down from getting a permit? What are the criteria to be able to get a permit?
No one that I know was ever turned down. It was I think it started back in Danny Mullins' day, didn't it? So it was many years ago, the council and iwi and different ones reached agreement that we would have a permit. The good thing about a permit is there is some record of people that are doing it, and there would be a standard of behaviour accepted, which we have offered too, to have a code of conduct, and we would do our level best to ensure that code of conduct was adhered to. So no, it was for the season. There was no limitations on it apart from that season. And we understand how busy that beach is at Christmas and that sort of thing. We're not interested in, if you want to go by vehicle at that time of the year, I would think that would be a local customary practice to gather only. For whitebaiters, just the season. We know how busy it is outside of, into summer. We don't drive down there then.
So I suppose another basic question is the fact that the permit was allow you to drive on the beach. down to where those posts were. So it was about driving on the beach. Is that what the permit was for, or is it something different?
Yes, it was. It allowed you to take a vehicle down there. Prior to the season before cancellation, we could drive right to the river, and I don't even think there wasn't even a limit on the permit, was there? It was a permit to drive down to the river. Yeah, it was actually. Drive to the river.
Look,
I'm just thinking back to...
I quite enjoy the conversation, but
I'm
can
done.
you...
Thank you. Just understanding that.
Yeah, thinking back to the days, yes, we could drive to the river.
Councillor Coates.
Jim, thanks for coming in this morning. And look,
Thank you, you're welcome.
My whānau were born and bred in Otaki, but I didn't come back until my early, I think I was about 12, and my experience of that was coming back for whitebaiting through the season from up north. And so I understand the passion and also the limitations behind that. You mentioned the Three Amigos. We've been called worse, but you referred to the Three Amigos. Are you aware that, I guess, the discussions that influenced the Three Amigos, the Council of Greater Wellington and DOC coming together, my recollection came from an individual or individuals in the community that have a differing view of yourself. So we've got a diverse community of people with various opinions and views, and that individual's view around access into the reserve, contrary to DOC and Greater Wellington's own rules, landed us where we are today. So it wasn't that the Three Amigos were all standing around twiddling their thumbs and thinking, what can we do next? Are you aware of the background behind that and how we ended up having the removal of the permit system and the enforcement?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm aware of some of it, and I'm aware of the passion that's put in by the Friends of the Waikanae Estuary and the tree planting and stuff like that. Are you also aware that we've made an offer and we would do anything? We're more keen on the river mouth, planting the weed, the seagrass, stuff like that. We've made that offer. At one stage we were getting on okay with DOC, but had a disagreement. So I'm aware that, and bless it, the diversity of humans and people, that there is people who obviously shudder when they see a vehicle driving down the beach, but they shudder for their own reasons. They shudder because we're putting carbon in the air maybe, but so's everyone else. They shudder because they think we're killing, what do you call it, pippies and toiroa. And we're not, you know. That's a proven fact. We've looked into that. I won't go over that again, but we're not. Driven in the right place, driven responsibly at a certain speed. So I'm aware of the diversity of people's opinions, loves, passions, and all the rest of it. We do no harm. We've never done any harm. We've been doing it for decades and decades. And why should we not be allowed to do it because someone shudders at the thought of us driving a vehicle where we've done it for decades?
Right, I've got the next question from... no other questions. Can I have Helen?
Sorry? Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Helen Punton, and I live next to the beach access way on Manly Street. I'm a bit new to this, so I hope I don't go over other people's stuff. I just was really surprised and quite shocked to hear that the proposal was going ahead on Sunday. And over the next few days, I watched numerous people using that accessway, and I felt really sad that you were considering closing it or putting up barriers or stuff like that, because over the 19 years that I've been there, I have just seen lots of people enjoying the accessway and enjoying the beach. And as far as talking about risks, and I'm not going to bother with that now because I can't follow it. As far as risks go, I have not seen massive risks. I have not seen near misses. I haven't heard of any incidents. So I'm just wondering where this real safety concern comes from. If the safety concern is a few bogans on the beach when it's bad weather, because they don't go down there when it's nice because there's lots of people. They go down there when it's really horrible, and occasionally. That safety risk is really not part of the bylaw as far as I understand. It's more to do with New Zealand Police, I think. I'm not sure, but I think. So I don't know how that comes into it, but I don't think that validates considering the closure of the accessway or barriers. As far as safety goes, there was a fire service truck down there this morning, and they mentioned they were actually just checking out to see because they wanted to launch a craft later, but they mentioned that they were really concerned at it being closed because they needed open to get down onto the beach in case of fires, dune fires, beach fires, things like that. So I just wondered, have they been consulted? There are numerous people that use the accessway as part of their daily life. Local walkers, young mums and dads with strollers, people on bikes, kayakers, paddle boarders, kite surfers, all launching their recreational craft. People casting a line for kai off the pipes, putting out crab pots. My neighbour walking 3 times a day on her crutches. A lovely open, hard space for her to go down. They chat, it's part of their daily routine, their social well-being and their mental well-being. I don't know how you quantify that, but I think that's worth more than $3,000 over 3 years. That maintenance of the maintenance of the path has improved since someone saw that it was sticking out into the high tide mark, and that was why it was being eaten away regularly and needing refurbishment every so often. Since they did that, it's been fantastic. The sea hasn't touched it. So going forward, I don't think that the price is going to be anything near what it was. The barrier just seems to me a barrier, another barrier that doesn't need to be a barrier that will need to be managed, a barrier that will cost money, that we will wear. Sending everybody down to their other boat club, there's a southerly down there. It's not as easy to launch. We're sheltered. Paddleboarders can go out, kayakers can go out, small craft can go out. It's nice and easy. It just seems that this is a problem that's come from nothing. People choose to live where we are because of the accessway. Please listen to the majority. The figures don't add up, not from what I've just heard. Nobody else has seen any other figures. Please explain why you're ignoring 70%. We don't need a barrier. We need people to be able to enjoy easy access. You know, I just don't see where the risk is. I just don't see where the cost is. I just see a lot of problems, a lot of tension, a lot of stress, a lot of anger over nothing.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCann. Just hang on there, Helen. Councillor McCann.
It's time to get away.
So this question won't be that hard. So thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. And I don't need to repeat the previous question, was that are you aware that as councillors we don't always take the advice of staff and we do come up with other solutions. My question to you is around the difference between what you've stated as to whether your real concern is closing off the access or a barrier. And then I might have some supplementary questions.
I just don't think it needs a barrier.
So your main concern is, because I heard when you started that it was closing off.
Well, that was what I initially heard, which made me so upset. Yeah. Okay, and then they said, oh well. Then I heard you say, oh well, maybe you'll stick a barrier up, and I thought, well, I actually said, well, why? Initially, your arguments were that you were going to close it because of cost and safety risks, and I didn't see safety risks, and I didn't know the cost. But having heard the cost and still seeing no safety risks, I'm still thinking, well, why are you going to put a barrier in? Because that's actually going to be added cost. How are you going to manage that?
Thank you for that. That's really relevant.
And that's another thing for people to navigate at the end of a small accessway.
And I do think it's worth noting there might be some contention on what those costs are. But thank you very much.
Hang on, Helen, don't run.
Thank you. It's regarding the maintenance costs. The report says the maintenance costs are high in comparison, but as mentioned, the Deputy Chief Executive wrote a letter saying over 3 financial years the total cost was only $2,898.08. Does that seem high to you over a 3-year period to maintain that?
In comparison to the capacity of use, I think it's extremely low. I don't know how you can quantify people's happiness.
Thank you.
No, no.
Oh, God, no. Sorry, I'm just going to stay here till someone says go away.
You're very popular this morning. Look, you'd mentioned the comments around safety and didn't sort of see any issues around safety. Were you, I didn't quite catch how long you'd been in the area, and I'm wondering whether you were around a few years back, just I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, where a Toyota Highlander rolled just 100 metres north of the Paraparaumu Boating Club, just as one example of some of the behaviour that does cause.
We are talking about the access way.
It's vehicles on beaches in general. So were you aware of?
But I was thinking in terms of the specific vicinity of the access way.
Yeah, so if any vehicle has access to the beach via an access point, they have access to drive down the beach.
Yes, but that vehicle possibly would have accessed by the boating club, I imagine.
So you're saying that it wouldn't be able to access the beach via the Manly Street. Now I'm in support of keeping it open, just to be really clear, but a vehicle can access the beach, then it can drive down the length of the beach.
Yeah, so it can access it from the boating club.
Yeah, and hence why we've got the recommendations before us today. So I just wanted to check with you in terms of those concerns around safety. You're saying there aren't any.
Yeah, but my point was, I was saying that.
Hang on a moment, just
I was saying
ask the question, make a response. I don't want an argument.
Oh no, I'm just trying to point out that, as I said before, those vehicles on the beach are in the police jurisdiction, aren't they? Not the bylaw.
So are you saying that they're not a safety risk?
I'm saying they're a safety risk, but not under the council's bylaw.
Okay, I think that's clear.
Am I wrong?
Councillor Holbrook.
Yes, thank you for volunteering to become the expert on beach accesses for this morning.
Oh, thank you for your sarcasm. Cheers.
No, I've got a question, a serious question. So in terms of there being a barrier or not, are you concerned that if we implement a barrier at the boating club, that people trying to avoid using a swipe card will use the Manly Street entrance, which will then become busier? Would that be a concern?
Sorry, I didn't realise that you were implementing barriers at the boating club as well. So this is all about you maintaining barrier control of the beach.
Yeah, so within our discussion, there has been mention of swipe card barrier arms at the Paraparaumu Boating Club, the Kapiti Boating Club and the Waikanai Boating Club, hence why there might be a concern around extra people trying to use the free access that doesn't have a barrier at the Manly Street. Would that be a concern for you, do you think, as a resident?
This has just been made, you've just mentioned this to me. My concern was about the access way being closed, so I didn't realise the barriers were part of the equation.
Yeah, so obviously quite a difficult kind of situation to weigh up with all sorts of different, and I didn't mean to be sarcastic, I was just referring to the fact that you'd had so many questions today, that was all.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you for coming along, Helen. Just hopefully a very quick one. So if we do keep the North Manly Street one access open, and given there's the proposal for a barrier to go down at the boat club, in terms of managing that, would you sort of see a barrier going up there and allowing that authorised access through the North Manly Street access being sort of an acceptable compromise?
I can see a lot of traffic banking up there in a very small street with. Have you tried to turn around there? You should take your car. Take your car down on a busy day and try and do a U-turn. So yeah, I just think it's just a whole nother added level of difficulty, but it's in your ballpark, so yeah, it's up to you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, can I just ask, is there going to be a pathway with the barrier? If you put a barrier up, will there be?
For pedestrians, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for people access. I now have Mr. Guy Burns. Mr. Guy Burns, being an elected member,
Good morning. I just here also talk about the beach bylaw.
Yeah, have you got something new to add?
Yes. As you know, I'm on the community board, and the community board had 2 public meetings. We had a lot of people come along, and in all those meetings, everyone was opposed to the North Manly Street boating launch site being closed. It's an historic site. We've heard today it's actually used even for launching canoes back a few hundred years ago. It's been narrowed down to a little spot, but it's still there. People can launch their boats at the North Manly Street site. And a lot of people are living around there. They bought properties there because of that point. And to close it off, an old historic boat launching site will be a travesty of justice. It will be actually against the principles of natural justice. By convention, that site has been used. It's been well used. It's very popular, and from what I can see and my observations of talking to people and watching, it's also very safe. There's no problems there. There's been no accidents. Vehicles haven't rolled anywhere near that area, and it's also widely used. So just in summing up, I would say ignore the advice to keep it open and add it to the boat launching site list, which is in the bylaw. It's not there now. Keep it open for the locals who use it, and listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Roger Foley.
No questions?
Hang on, Roger. I've got, Guy, there's a question.
Yes.
Kia ora, Guy. I'm just wondering, through the different consultation events and hui that the community board held, what were people's view on potentially having it gated with swipe card access but still having that pedestrian access? What was the view on
people said a gate is it could work, but preferably no gate. But it was better than no access for boats. Thank you.
Roger Foley. We have a Roger Foley in the house.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Roger Foley. I'm a resident in Manly Street, down next door to the northern entrance to the beach on Manly Street. I put in a lengthy submission, which you councillors would have read. Everybody that's spoken against the Manly Street boating ramp, boating access and disability access, I agree with, and it's quite amazing how this whole meeting so far has been based on basically this item only. So I'm sure it must say to you councillors, who I accept as my representative or our representatives, that it should stay open. With regard to the cost of it, it's bugger all. I've only been there 2.5 years, one load of shingle. Hey, it's a great track, but if the costs are a worry, I'd be quite happy to take on a contract with the council and pay for the expenses on that right away for the next 10 years. And that can be noted. As I say, I agree strongly with everybody. I get disappointed. We've all said what and disagree that we want this access way, but we don't get any feedback or support from councillors. Or is that how it works? What stage are we at? Do we just yap like this and then you choose to vote the way you feel? Just a question bears thinking of. There hasn't been much said about the disability side importance to this access way either. I myself am disabled. The lady that just left early, I speak to her most days walking on a stick on the beach. My neighbour's a paraplegic lady. She uses the beach. Her partner takes her down in a wheelchair. And there's numerous things like that. I have visitors, parents that are disabled, and it's great. They can go down there, park and watch their great grandkids swim. It's all these Kiwi things. And, you know, you don't want to listen to me babble on. The facts have been put in front of you. I feel strongly against it. And some of the actions I just see, you know, I mean, as I say, 2.5 years in this area. The last area I came from, I was involved in council meetings such as this, and there was communication. And this council, you know, Dennis getting kicked out, without wanting to be kicked out. It's looking to me a bit like a dictatorship, and I think we should look at ourselves.
I would, you should
Thank
correct
you. That's
yourself
all
on
I've got
that.
to say.
You know, if you want to know what dictatorship is, I could send you to countries where it happens.
Sorry, I can't understand you.
You've got, no, I'm sure you can't understand me. Councillor McCann.
Pardon?
I'm just going to ask a question, and you'll note that some of my questions are actually designed to provide answers, but
Sure.
the rules are that we have to ask questions, not make statements. Are you aware of that? See how I've done that?
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I am now.
So that may help you answer why we're not perhaps agreeing with you. The second thing is, are you aware that councillors need to have open minds, perhaps not empty minds, which means that we can't be predetermined, which is why we're not necessarily telling you exactly how we think.
Yes, I've been involved in meetings and private meetings with, not yourself, but a number of councillors here, and they've spoken a bit like you. Some have said, they support my ideas, but the people that aren't going to support it, if there are any, I don't know them, and I'd love the opportunity to debate the subject with them.
So look, I just want to thank you because we are all listening to all of these comments, and we will be making up our
If I may make a point, you questioned Helen with regards to the arms or whatever, the barriers for vehicles at that street. I think we as residents, we would rather have the access way available to vehicles for boat launching and disability, and we would accept the barriers if that's what's going to keep our track open. But I personally don't think it's a practical solution because of it's on a hill, parking a boat and opening the barrier, or I don't know how it'll work, but that was just a point that comes to mind. And also we've got those stormwater pipes down there which operate as barriers, as probably you all know by looking at it, and that gives us quite a bit of security from speeding vehicles. We have to slow down for that sort of thing.
Councillor McCann, you got another question?
Oh, thank you for answering the question that I was about to ask.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I answer a question from the speaker that he asked us and I haven't answered for him? Yes. Are you aware that when this agenda came out with this staff recommendation to close this, that pretty much all the elected members around the table flagged that, and we have been talking about that for the last 3 or 4 days, asking staff the questions we need to, debating between ourselves about what the public want, going back over submissions, getting phone calls and ring-arounds while cooking tea last night, and a text on my phone from a colleague saying, ring me when I woke up and got out of my shower. Believe me, we don't just sit here and read the paper and make decisions. So I really want to thank you all for coming and adding to this decision.
So your question was, are you aware of that?
Are you aware of that? No.
I wasn't aware, but I was hoping that was happening, and I didn't mean any disrespect. But I don't know that you're doing this. I think I haven't got a bloody boat. I don't care.
Roger, we got another question. Councillor Coates.
G'day, Roger. And I look, fellow boaty fisherman myself when I can get time to get out. And we did do a site visit down there, so very familiar with the car park and the walk down through the beach and so forth. My question to you is, are you sticking around for the rest of the meeting when we consider the beach bylaw? Because I hope you are. You'll get to see the discussion and how we do consider the views from within the community, the consultation period, the written feedback, the emails, and so forth. So like Councillor McCann said, we come to an informed decision. And were you here at the start of the meeting when I asked the Chief Executive to clarify this Manly Street position? So there's 2 questions there. One, were you at the start when the Chief Executive clarified the Manly Street?
I was here at the beginning. I just can't remember that.
Okay. And are you able to stay for the rest of the meeting?
I'll do anything I can to. My intention was to be here for anything that's going on about the Manly Street.
Appreciate it if you could stick around.
Councillor Compton.
Thank you for coming in today. Just picking up on your point about disability access, Would you be of the view that if we lost the North Manly Street access, that having people with disabilities trying to go onto the beach and access it down at the boating club isn't really going to be sustainable given the volume of traffic that's down there? Having that sort of quieter area at the northern end is really, I would see it as being really useful, because they're not necessarily, when they're able to get out of the cars and go in the wheelchairs and stuff, they're not going to be competing with the same volumes of traffic as they are at the other end of the beach.
Yeah, well, both are very, the disability people, we need access as much as possible. There's two sort of different types of access. I've, been down to the boating club end, and I've spoken to people with disability there, a young woman with her old mum there having fish and chips, and, watching the boaties come in and out. And I've spoken to a lot of other people like that. While this has been all going on, I've sort of approached cars and said, I see you haven't got a disability stick, but you're an old duck, and that, do you realise this is going on? And she said, oh yeah, I have got a disability sticker. And, they're using it. And down at the end where I live, as I said, my aged parents will come, they can drive, but they can't walk. So they can walk down the beach, and their great-grandkids run down the beach from home, on their bodyboards and doing all the things, and they can join in, be there. And the young woman neighbour who's wheelchair bound, her partner takes her down in the van. The chair can come out, and the sand's hard, and she can get out. Otherwise, she can't get out of her house. It's a piece
Roger,
of cake.
we have another question from Councillor Pravanov.
Mr. Mayor, so there is a question at the end of this. So thank you. Good to see you again. I saw you at one of the beach bylaw information evenings.
That's right, up to the Mayor's.
So thank you for coming along here to public speaking time. And so after public speaking time is finished, the councillors will then consider the paper, and then they will discuss it. They can make changes to it, and then it goes out for consultation, which is a formal period where people can, all members, anyone can actually submit to it. People can actually speak to their submissions. Are you aware of that process? So it goes on for about, 6 weeks or so. Are you aware of that
No, I
process?
wasn't. I thought today was it. That's why I get a bit tired.
Okay. That's my question.
I think, Mr. Chief Executive, will you clarify that, please?
I wasn't aware.
Just hang on a moment, Roger.
Sorry, you were provided with incorrect information. We're at the end of the process, not the beginning, for the beach bylaw.
Oh, well, I just thought it was. I thought it was all happening today.
The council has given you incorrect information.
Yeah,
good.
There is another
Appreciate
paper
it.
that is at the start of a process.
I apologise. Thank you.
Roger, that's the end of the question time. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you.
Right. That's the end of the public speaking. Can I now go to item number 6, members' business? In terms of 6A, public speaking time responses, the issue of the beach bylaw submissions and all that will be dealt with later. I want the Chief Executive to respond to, I think, Trevor, you raised some questions. Chief Executive. Trevor.
In response to Mr. Daniels, yes, the rates numbers are after growth has been deducted, and that's made clear all the way through. So any council tells you that its rates increase is the net increase. So in our case, the 7.8% is after growth has been deducted, and growth forecast for next year is 0.9%. You mentioned multi-year rates. They show it quite clearly, reasonably clearly on a graph, and we do talk to the first 3 years. And obviously, as you're well aware, every annual plan will talk in more detail to those actual rates numbers. The issue with consultation is we're actually not really permitted to publish the entire suite of documents in one hit. We're actually legally required just to publish a consultation document with a whole lot of supporting information on our website. So we're forced to make it pretty unwieldy, and so we don't particularly like it either, but all the rates numbers are there, and visually in the consultation you can see it in the graphs anyway, all of those items. Your other point about OIAs, if you put in requests, we'll get through them as fast as we can, but the more requests there are, the longer it tends to take overall. So, if one comes in a day before a meeting saying, I need this to inform me for a meeting, it's not that, simple or helpful, as you know. So, thank you.
Right, members' business 6B, leave of absence. Any leave of absence? No. Matters of an urgent nature, I have not been advised of any. Mayor's report, nil. So at this point, I want to take a 10-minute break. Everybody will come back to item number 8. In the meantime, those in the public arena, if we wait, I will try and move that item earlier. Thank you.